a show that takes place over 8 weeks in Lower Manhattan with me, Emily Baltz. I'm your host, interviewing female artists living and working in New York City. And today I have the privilege and honor of sitting next to Martha Cooper, who is an incredible documentary photographer who has specialized in shooting urban culture since the late 1970s. Subway Art, her book about New York City train graffiti, co-published in 1984 with Henry Chalfant, is credited with spreading street art globally. Martha's photos have appeared in hundreds of books and magazines and have been exhibited in galleries worldwide. She travels frequently, but is home-based in New York City. Martha, welcome, and thank you so much for being on this platform together.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we were talking a little bit before we went live just about your process and how you came to be a photographer and then furthermore a street artist. And I wish we could turn the camera.
Wish you could have seen that, everybody. A great graffiti truck just went by.
It's an omen.
Can't. Plus that.
So something went past us that if only everyone out there could see. Anyway.
Trucks are the new trains.
Trucks are the new trains. Mm-hmm. So tell me more about this. You became quite renowned in the graffiti scene and then what evolved into the street art world for capturing these moments that actually are fleeting, just like this truck ran past us. How did you come to this?
At the time, I was a photographer for the New York Post, and I was out on the street every day, so I got to see a lot of stuff. And I was shooting a personal project about kids on the Lower East Side looking for things that they had made themselves, like little houses or little go-karts. And a boy showed me his notebook with graffiti drawings and offered to introduce me to a king. And he did, and the king was Dandi, and I got totally obsessed by graffiti.
What was the obsession about? Was it the hidden nature of it? Was the
It was a combination of things. It was the hidden nature, but also I had never really noticed graffiti before, and once I started hearing about the planning it took to paint a piece on a train and how organized it was as opposed to being an act of, say, random vandalism, that there was a vocabulary associated with it. All of these things fascinated me, and the fact that sort of adults didn't really know what it was, so I felt like I had been let into a hidden world.
Oh, it's so introduced by a child that awoke sort of the child in you, too.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that, and these weren't really young children that were doing the big pieces on trains, but the idea that they had developed a sophisticated art form that they understood, that only they really knew what the aesthetic components were, and adults didn't, was fascinating to me.
Yeah, so you are the photographer that street artists call.
You know what? Now there are hundreds of street art photographers, and some of them are really good, some of them are excellent, some of them are better than I am. But I think most of the street artists out there definitely know who I am.
Yeah, and how did that spread? How did word spread? How did you get to find pieces that they were being made?
There are many different ways that that information is spread around, and at first it was very difficult, but now with the internet, it's not so difficult. There are lots of websites. There are many graffiti festivals around the world, street art festivals. And, you know, I should say here that there's a big overlap between graffiti and street art. Graffiti is about letters, about writing your name. Street art is more about images, but there's a lot of artists do both.
Yeah.
And, you know, just there's no one way to learn about it, but there are lots of different ways, and of course the internet has been amazing.
Yeah, and how did you catch your first images? I mean, that was pre-internet, right?
Yeah, I mean, I used to go up to the Bronx. I had a car, and I would drive along looking for a good angle because I like to shoot trains with the context of the South Bronx. And I lived on the Upper West Side, so I went to the Bronx, not to Brooklyn. And the old Brooklyn writers are still bugging me about that. They're sad that, you know, because I never thought that I would be documenting only a set of writers that would become known, and then other writers. There were many, many, many writers out there, and they called themselves writers, not artists, who do not have good pictures of their pieces on trains. But anyway, I would go up to the Bronx, I would look for a place to shoot from, like a vacant lot where I could see a train coming and going, and I would stand there for hours until the one that a good, big, fresh, new piece came by and take a picture of it.
And there, in an instant, gone. You
Yeah.
got very good at motion photography.
Yeah, I mean, and there were days that I would go up and stand for 5 hours and get nothing.
Wow.
So it was, really a labor of love.
Yeah. And with the evolution from graffiti and street art now moving into galleries, which is not a new thing, that's been
No.
happening for many years.
Many years.
But
Yeah.
when did you see that shift start to happen? And what kind of was the zeitgeist or the sentiment around that?
Well, the shift was happening right away. Even there were galleries, graffiti productions. There were several galleries that were going on right from the beginning, from when I started, and even from before I started. But now, with street art, I think major galleries and museums are taking note. So it was just a gradual process.
Yeah. What is its role in cityscapes? I mean, it's one of the big markers, I think, of New York City.
I would have to just answer for myself.
Yeah.
The city is a built environment. There's very little that one person can do. You have to be a bazillionaire to build a building, but one mural can definitely change a streetscape and can enliven a streetscape. And for me, what I like about street art and graffiti is that I never know what I'm going to see. Because instead of always seeing the same thing, if I walk in the same way, I can always look for something different. And that's what I love to do, is keep my eyes open and see what's out there. And it doesn't actually have to be a wall or a mural. I'm a big fan of stickers, for example.
Oh, yeah.
So I've done 2 books on stickers. I
Yeah.
should have brought them. And I've done a book on postal stickers, but also one on the smaller "Hello, my name is" stickers. And I just love looking at the postal boxes and the doors and seeing who's been there. And for me, it means that somebody's been there in person, as opposed to a big ad
Yeah.
that's mass-produced. We're talking about, an individual who has written something and put it up. And I like that idea.
Yeah. You've photographed so many things, even outside of this world. What else? You were telling me you had
Yeah.
started as a photographer for the New York Post?
No, I started
No, I
way
totally
before
misread.
that.
Ah,
No.
good.
I mean, I was a photographer for I came to New York in '75.
Yeah.
But before that, I had done a lot of photography. I'd photographed a book on Japanese tattooing, for example. I should have brought that to show you.
Oh.
And it's called Tokyo Tattoo 1970.
Did you go to Tokyo to photograph
I
it?
lived in Japan for 2 years. I was married at the time. I married an anthropologist, and we lived in Japan. So while he did his thing, I did my thing. So that was maybe the first underground culture
Yeah.
that I photographed. And but before that, I'd been the photographer. We had lived in Rhode Island. I'd photographed for the Narragansett Times. I've photographed my whole life.
What drew you to photography as a medium?
My dad had a camera store, and he gave me a camera when I was in nursery school. So I just grew up with a camera.
So you started photographing at the age of 3, is this
Something
correct?
like that, yes.
Wow.
3, 2, 3, 4, somewhere in there. Correct, yes.
And you had a speedy path from what I know. You graduated from college very early.
Yeah, early. I did
Yeah.
graduate early, and I went into the Peace Corps. And I taught in Thailand, taught English in Thailand for 2 years. So I took pictures while I was there.
Yeah. What has your greatest education be? Well, has it been? Let me use
The
some
street.
Yeah. Why do you think that?
Maybe just because I'm most interested in it. I was never all that good with book learning.
Yeah.
I'm better with experiences. So, and the camera helps me remember experiences. So I'm more of, when I say I'm a documentary photographer, I know I'm here because you think I'm an artist. I don't call myself an artist. I like to think that there's maybe an art component to the pictures that I take, that they're framed well, that they're aesthetically pleasing, but that isn't what I'm going for. I'm not going for dramatic lighting. I'm not going for dramatic anything. I'm going for sort of more everyday life.
Yeah. So you think that an artist cannot capture everyday life?
Oh, an artist can capture everyday life, but I just don't consider myself an artist. I consider myself a documenter.
Yeah.
And a photographer. You know, there's a lot of interest in photography as art, but I think there are like a lot of other things that photography can do, and documenting is something it can do really, really well.
Yeah.
So there's a crossover. You know, it's like graffiti and street art. There's documenting and art. But I mean, I'm not really a fine art photographer.
Yeah.
So I want to make that clear.
Yeah. It's so interesting because a lot of this, well, this is a platform, literally.
Yeah.
And I mean, my favorite thing to do in the world
Yeah.
is perhaps like you strolling around, taking photographs, finding new things, is finding new people and finding all sorts of new definitions of what it means to be an artist or to act as an artist. Do you think that being a female affected your work in any way?
You know, in a way, yes, it definitely affected it. I mean, when I came to New York and I was looking for a job, it was an age of feminism, and the Post needed a woman, and I think that's why I got the job, because they needed one, and I showed up, and they hired me. So in some ways, it affected it in a very positive way.
Yeah.
I was lucky with the timing. Now I don't think it really matters in photography. There are just so many women and men. But there have always been strong female photographers, and in fact, I have a website, kodakgirl.com, which is my collection of images of unknown female photographers.
Oh, and how do you assemble them? Do people submit them to you?
No, I collect them. Like, I buy them on eBay.
Oh, cool.
They're like,
yeah.
they're postcards and photographs, but I also go to, you know, flea markets, that kind of thing.
What do you look for in a photograph?
Any photograph or the ones that I collect?
I'm interested in both because is there a different process to those?
I look, yes.
Yeah.
The ones that I collect, I'm looking for an image of a strong woman with a camera who looks like she really knows how to use the camera and is not just a model posing with a camera. And if you look at my website, kodakgirl.com, you'll see a lot of those images.
Yeah.
What do I like in another photograph? I like something that I haven't seen before, and that something specific that I haven't seen before. Just for example, there was at Photoville an exhibit along the fence, and somebody had photographed face masks in, this is embarrassing, China, Korea, someplace. Really good photographs, but the fact that she had seen this phenomenon, in particular on people with motorcycles, face masks that people on motorcycles wore, that were pretty amazing. And somehow the fact that I had never seen that before really interested me. It's more like some phenomenon that I haven't seen that somebody's documented. That's what I like to see.
Yeah, making the invisible visible in some way.
Especially if it's something, and that's not a good example, but some everyday life thing that I've never seen before. I saw an excellent series of pictures someone had shot, and sorry, I don't remember who, of dancers on the subway. And it was a really good series. That, technically good and very interesting to look at. And those are the kinds of things that I'm not drawn in so much by beauty.
Yeah, more so the unexpected. Yeah.
Very good. Yes, you got it.
I got it.
Yeah.